Close your eyes. Imagine a battlefield. Dust rises under the boots of thousands. Flags flutter in the wind. A lone hero steps forward, armor gleaming, sword in hand, a defiant look in his eyes. He doesn't need backup. He doesn't fear death. He fights for honor, justice, and maybe love. You've seen him before, in movies, in games, in TV series. The perfect warrior, strong, bold, unstoppable. He takes down 10 enemies at once. He flips over shields, pierces armor, and yells in glorious slow motion. But what if none of that was real? What if the truth about ancient and medieval warriors was quieter, slower, and far more human? For centuries, stories of warriors have been told not to explain the truth, but to entertain, inspire, and mythologize. The reality of battle, however, was rarely beautiful. It was muddy, it was confusing, it was terrifying. And those warriors, they weren't invincible gods. They were scared, tired, hungry men trying to survive. In this story, we're going to step off the movie set and walk into the real world of ancient warfare. A world where strength was just one part of survival, and silence, timing, discipline, and fear played a far bigger role. Because the truth is, war was not a dance. It was a machine. And warriors? They were the cogs. Forget the battlefield for a moment. Before the chaos of swords and arrows came routine, discipline, and the quiet hum of daily life. Because being a soldier in the ancient world wasn't all about glory. It was about endurance. Each morning, soldiers didn't wake up to dramatic music. They woke to cold air, sore backs, and the weight of iron gear. They didn't check their weapons for show. They checked them because if they failed, they'd die. Training wasn't optional. It was survival. Day after day, formations were drilled into muscle memory. Turn left, shield up, advance 2 steps, retreat, tighten the line, again and again. This rhythm wasn't heroic. It was exhausting, but it built something movies often forget: trust. Because in real war, you didn't fight for fame. You fought for the man beside you. If he ran, you died. And when not training, you marched miles upon miles, carrying packs heavier than most modern soldiers. Blistered feet, dust in the eyes. No glory, no music, just heat, sweat, and silence. Meals were simple: dry bread, water, maybe dried meat if you were lucky. Sleep came on hard ground. Armor stayed close, because enemies didn't always wait for sunrise. And still, you laughed, you joked, you told stories under the stars about home, about family, about surviving one more day. That was a soldier's life. Not glamour, but grit. You feel it before you see it. A tension, a pressure in the air. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, but warns. The camp is quiet. Even the jokes are gone. Because today is the day. The orders come at dawn, as the mist still hangs low. Shields are checked again. Straps tightened. Blades sharpened again. And faces change. There's no more pretending. This isn't training. This is the real thing. Marching to battle isn't fast. It's heavy, slow. Each step echoes in your chest. You hear boots beside you. Not just one pair, but hundreds, thousands. Some breathe fast, some say prayers, others say nothing. The field appears in the distance, dust clouds from enemy boots, glints of armor under the sun, and suddenly, the world feels too real. Officers shout orders, formations move like gears in a clock, phalanx, shield wall, crescent, wedge. You don't see heroes running ahead. You see lines, patterns, walls of men, waiting to live or fall. The drums start. Boom, 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 a rhythm older than time. Your line begins to move. Slow, measured, you grip your shield tighter, feel your heartbeat. You can barely breathe under the helmet, but there's no turning back. This is war. There's no moment of glory, no soaring music, no dramatic speeches, only chaos and noise. The two lines meet like waves crashing. Metal hits metal, shields slam, feet dig into dirt. The first few seconds are madness. You don't see who you hit. You don't know where the blow landed. You just swing, block, breathe, survive. Fighting in formation isn't glamorous. You're packed shoulder to shoulder. You can barely move. There's no room for fancy sword play. No spinning or jumping. Just pressure. Your shield presses into the man ahead. The man behind pushes into you. You're not a hero, you're part of a wall. A living, trembling wall. You hear grunts, screams, the crack of bone, the snap of wood, the wet sound of flesh being torn. And yet, your world narrows. All you see is what's in front of you. A sliver between helmets, a flash of steel, a face you don't recognize, then blood. Time stretches. Or maybe it disappears. You don't know how long you've been fighting. 1 minute? 10? Your arms ache. Your breathing is ragged. Your vision blurs. Sweat stings your eyes. Your grip weakens. But you can't stop. Because if you fall, you open a gap. And a gap means death. This isn't about killing anymore. It's about not dying. You don't chase the enemy. You hold, you endure, you listen for orders. A horn blast, a shouted signal. You don't decide when to fight. You don't decide when to stop. The formation does. Then, suddenly, a break. The enemy line falters. They fall back. You push forward. But not like in the movies. There's no cheering, no rush of victory, only more blood, more bodies, and the heavy realization that it's not over. You're just in the next phase. Somewhere, a man screams your name. Another collapses. You step over the dead. You don't even look down, because if you stop, if you hesitate, you might not get back up. This is what real combat looked like. No glory, no slow-motion heroics, just fear, noise, pain, and the desperate hope to live until sunset. You made it through the clash. You're still breathing, still standing. Your sword is chipped, your shield is cracked, but you're alive, and that means everything, because survival was never guaranteed. The battlefield after the fight is not a place of triumph. It's quiet, too quiet, except for the groans of the dying. There is no applause. No one pats your back. No one raises a flag. Instead, you walk among broken bodies, some still moving, some whispering for water, some not moving at all. And in that moment, you learn the first rule of war no one told you. Winning doesn't mean it felt like victory. It just means you're not dead. Yet, ancient and medieval battles weren't won by who killed the most. They were won by who held longer, by who broke slower, because battles were about morale, about who gave up first, and survival often meant knowing when to fall back. Yes, retreat wasn't always cowardice. Sometimes it was wisdom. Commanders who understood this kept men alive. They rotated troops mid-fight, pulled out the tired, sent in the fresh, kept formations tight. Because fatigue kills faster than swords. And when retreat came, it wasn't like in movies. No dramatic last stand, just a horn, a signal, a wave of movement back, fast, precise, controlled, or chaotic and doomed. If your line broke in panic, death came faster than you could run. Because the second rule of war is brutal. If you fall out of formation, you become a target. Some didn't make it, not because they were weak, but because they slipped. Their foot caught a stone. They turned their head at the wrong time. One mistake, one moment, gone. You don't just survive war with strength, you survive with timing. with trust, with the man to your left and the one to your right. That was the real armor. Later that night, as you sit in camp, eating dry bread, drinking warm water, you don't feel like a hero. You feel hollow, exhausted, confused. You stare into the fire and try not to remember. But in the silence, you hear them. The men who didn't come back. They look magnificent in films, swords gleaming under the sun, helmets catching the light, plate armor shining like silver mirrors. Warriors walk like gods, unburdened, swift, invincible. But in reality, armor was not a costume. It was a cage, and weapons were tools of terror. Let's start with armor. In the ancient world, full plate armor, like in medieval Europe, didn't exist yet. Most soldiers wore bronze, iron, or layered leather. Chainmail? Rare and expensive. Only elite troops or officers had it. And it was heavy. Imagine carrying 15 to 25 kilos, 30 to 55 pounds, on your body, every day, in the heat, during marches, in battle. Armor didn't make you invincible. It made you slower, hotter, tired faster. It limited vision. It muffled sound. It reduced movement. You didn't run in armor. You trudged, deliberate, measured, cautious. Helmets were vital, but also claustrophobic. Breath trapped, sweat poured. Some had no visors, just slits that turned the world into a tunnel. The idea of seeing everything? Gone. And the weapons? They weren't elegant. They weren't balanced for duels. They were designed for function, not flair. Spears and pikes, long, brutal team weapons, used to stab, not swing, often thrown or jammed into enemies from behind shields. Swords, often short, not meant to slash dramatically. They were used in close quarters, to poke, stab, finish. Axes and maces, for crushing bones under armor. Loud, messy, effective. Nothing about this was romantic. Weapons broke, armor failed, blades dulled, and every hit shook your bones, even if it didn't pierce your armor. Maintenance was survival. If your sword chipped, you fixed it. If your strap snapped, you tied it back. If your helmet didn't fit, you bled. In movies, gear looks clean, polished, ceremonial. In real life, it was dented, rusty, covered in mud, sweat, and sometimes blood. Soldiers didn't carry one perfect weapon. They used whatever worked, a rock, a spear from a fallen comrade, even the enemy's blade if it came to that. So was armor glory? Number, it was burden, weight you carried to live. And were weapons symbols of honor? Maybe. But more often, they were just the last thing between you and death. We love heroes. They inspire us. They make us feel brave. They give us something to believe in. But the warriors of the past, they didn't see themselves that way. They weren't chasing glory, or greatness, or legends. They were chasing something much simpler, the next sunrise. They didn't want to die. They didn't dream of battle. They didn't hunger for honor. They wanted to go home, to see their child grow, to eat a warm meal, to sleep in a bed without armor beside it. The truth? Most warriors were just men who had no choice, who were told where to stand, when to march, when to kill, and when to die. They didn't write the songs. They didn't choose the wars. They survived them. And when the fighting stopped, they were left with the silence, the memories, the weight. No medals, no parades, only scars. Some seen, some buried deep. So the next time you watch a movie and see the slow motion charge, the one-man army, the perfect duel under moonlight, remember this: real warriors didn't fight for moments. They fought for minutes, They fought for breath. They fought because someone had to, not because they wanted to. They weren't heroes. They were survivors. And that, in the end, is more powerful than legend.